Hi, nice to see you.
Hi, thank you guys for watching. Hi, Corey. Hi, Rembrandt.
So every indie film is a long journey, and I think this one's been a little longer than most. I watched a different cut of it.
So did I.
So this was new for you to see this cut. It's very different, isn't it?
I've seen this version a few times.
Oh, you have? It had a different title originally, Tatterdemalion.
Tatterdemalion, yes, that was the original title.
And it premiered at the Heartland Festival.
It did.
And like many indie films, including mine, takes a while to get distribution and get out. Tell us how you started the journey on this film, how you became involved.
I was in drama school in New York, and I was doing plays and stuff like that. I sort of took a break from doing the TV stuff I was doing and the big budget films, and just kind of was craving something different. And this script was one of the first that came to me during my time at drama school, and it was exactly what my heart was craving and desiring, something really that I could really sink my teeth into and really commit to, and something all immersive, from the physicality to the emotional inner life to the setting to the characters. It was a real world that I was able to step into, that I could create.
Was this was after, though, you'd done Hunger Games, I take it?
Yes.
And was the project financed at the time, or were they They were, so
yeah,
that was
but
nice.
Very low financing, very meager financing. But Rama discussed with me the constraints of low micro budget indie filmmaking, and I thought I knew. I thought I was pretty game, but
you didn't know you'd be living in the fortress in the
yeah,
forest.
That was my trailer, actually, that tent with the magazines. Yeah, I really didn't. The only thing I really wanted was Fiji waters to drink every day because it was really hot. That was my one diva demand. But it was definitely roughing it. And then I was like, this is not a student film, but it's like friends from all over coming in and helping. And it was really, from being on big budgets where you have 100 people on the crew, this was 20 people, and it really felt like guerrilla, home movie making. And like, if we get this shot, it'll be a good day, which I just wasn't familiar with. So
the woman who directed it, Rama Mosley, this is her second feature, and tell us a little bit about the process of your interacting with her, what you were looking for, and about the character and working with this particular director.
Well, I read the character and I was like, I don't think any actress will do as much as I will do for this. And I had to convince Rama of that. But I talked to her and I auditioned, and I read on Skype with her, and I told her, this is not indicative of what I'm going to be able to do with this character, because I'm in my apartment in Brooklyn right now, and it just doesn't serve the performance to be here. I know it's going, and I'm not, as she was being Cecil in the audition, God bless her soul. And I was just like, this is not, accurate. I don't think any auditioning really is, it's unfortunately, but this one in particular, I just felt a real calling to be there, to be with the child, and to be in the woods. And I knew that was going to influence me so much. So she believed me. And I think because I had already, gone there in my mind and figured that out, she trusted my instinct of what I was going to be able to pull off.
And what about in terms of creating a backstory for your character? Obviously, she's a vet coming home, and there's hints of PTSD that she's suffering from, and from a family that's been dysfunctional and had drug problems. Was that enough, or did you do more work on the backstory too?
I did more work just because why not? Anything, that can benefit, these in-between moments that you don't think about, that can influence some response from you in a weird way. is what I look for, and just to add little ingredients, you know, that might serve some random moment, and they do in unexpected ways. And you know, there's I did a lot of research about growing up in foster care, and you know, a lot of sexual, you know, issues go on there, and that's something that you can just say she grew up in foster care, you know, or you go really into that and go really detailed of like what that was like, what the homes were like, what the kids were like that were there, you know, what the parents were like, what the punishments were, what, you know, how that actually functioned, and like really go detailed with that. And same with the military, you know, I was like, okay, she's a vet, but like, what does that look like? What is that? What has she lived through? And what is that day to day like in, you know, the military for a woman, especially? Very complicated and complex issue. Also involving sexual, you know, misconduct and stuff like that. So dug into those little nooks too, and found some interesting things.
I think it paid off, particularly in that scene with her friend when she asks her about why she didn't take her and her brother in when her mother died, and we get a sense of the pain, and she can empathize really for the first time with Cecil. Had he been cast already? It's a terrific performance by a child, Landon Edwards. Had he been cast when you were cast, or not yet?
I think they were trying to decide if they could really trust, you know, not like a first-time actor to carry this film. I think it was probably between him and some kid in Burbank. And he's genuinely from
Arkansas. Working on his headshots.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing wrong with that. But it just, you know, this kid had this just very visceral quality of this kind of feral of the land, real little boy, you know, no offense to Burbank. But this kid's like shooting guns and fishing and riding four-wheelers and, you know, slingshots and stuff like that. So he has that essence.
How did you what was the process of you? I assume you had to make him comfortable with you more than vice versa. What was that process like? Did you have any time to go fishing with him or bonding in any way to try to establish some rapport, or because you were just getting to know each other, that was, you know, that was perhaps how you wanted to play it?
Yeah, I guess I made the whole film like a game to him so that he would be interested in doing it. And, you know, he's not an actor, so he doesn't, I don't, like what some days on set, he didn't even care about, you know, being there. He's a kid. He wants to go be on his Game Boy or whatever. So I kind of noticed that he, you know, was into like competing and games. And so I kind of, from the beginning, kind of got down in the mud with him and acted like, hey, this is just you and me. We're playing, you know, we're going to do this movie and it's going to be so fun, right? And like, I kind of convinced him that it was like fun, even though it was scary and times.
You are a good actor.
I needed him to be in, like, really invested. And there were times he was and there were times he wasn't. And, but I always, you know, whether forcibly or kindly, like, got him there because he respected me and I respected him, and I needed him. I could not have done this movie without him at all. So I was like just coming up with all these cunning ways to make him really comfortable and like.
Do you remember any of them?
I would sometimes before scenes would start and stuff. For example, the scene where he with the nails on the, you know, and he punches me. At first he was like,
ow.
And I was like, Landon, no. I was like, you better punch me as hard as you can, or I'm gonna punch you as hard as I can. And I was like, is that how you hit your sister? And he was like, no. And I was like, well, you need to punch me like you would your sister. And I'm going to scream at you. And you can scream. I want you to scream as loud as you can at me because I'm going to scream louder, you know, stuff like that. And I'd be like, you know, for this scene, you can't break eye contact with me. You know, and I would just give him these little these little nuggets to play with and make it like an imaginative game.
Well, I understand that the co-writer of the film kind of came from this part of the world. Mainfield, is that what it's called?
Tim Macy. Oh,
Tim.
This is West Plains, Missouri.
Yes, yeah, and Tim Macy, is that the writer, co-writer? Was he on set? Was he a good guide to this part of the world? Tell us about working in this kind of strange place. We see it now on Netflix in the series Ozark, but we don't often see it, and it's beautiful and frightening at the same time, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that was really what inspired, and the folklore and the generations of family that stay there is what inspired the whole quality of the movie, that it does have an eerie quality. Yeah, Tim is from there, and I spent, I think 2 weeks before we started shooting there to just immerse myself in it, because it's not an apartment in Brooklyn. It's not Burbank. I rag on Burbank so much.
What do you have against Burbank?
I don't know. I just hate it. So it just feeds you, as an artist, your imagination can run wild with this place. And he was definitely connected and had real love for the place, even though he doesn't live there anymore, but he wanted to really respect the place. And yeah.
And how rugged was it? I mean, how difficult was it? Was this under the ultra low budget or modified low budget? Do you know?
I think it was negative budget. I don't even know if it has a category.
Brought your own lunches.
Something like that. I mean, it was considered a micro budget at the time. I think as we went along, we may have gotten a bit more funding, which was a blessing. But it was really, really, really rugged. I mean, I was living in a dorm on a cot, Yeah. And it was, like I said, a small crew, and some of them had never held a boom before or done sound before, but they're or maybe they did it in a film class, Were
they all locals for the most part?
Most part, yeah. Our DP, Darren Moran, read the script, and he was just so passionate about it that he literally did it for free. So we had a lot of people doing that because the script is so good. And everybody wants to be on a good project, and one that's actually happening. And so Rama, even though she didn't know if she was going to get the money at a certain time, she said, it's starting on this day, and everybody better be there, and it will come. And it did. And I think the ruggedness just added to the essence of the film. I mean, I don't think you could make this movie with $1 million. It just wouldn't have the same desperation, I guess. Everyone's has to be in it as much as you are, and so, or else it falls apart.
How many days shooting was there?
I think it was 28, or maybe a little less. I can't remember.
And did you have to go back for any reshoots, or there was no money?
Well, actually, there was one. I think the last scene actually where we embrace there. I think we filmed it and it didn't record. Yeah, super intense scene.
Those are the ones
very
usually
upsetting. What?
Those are the ones
that got deleted. Yeah, so it got deleted. So we had to go back and do that, but only a few days later.
Well, that was fortunate. And how involved with the journey of the film did you stay after it was wrapped? Did you look at cuts of the film? Did you continue to communicate, or did you go on your way as an actor? How?
No, I mean, with this movie, I've done a lot of other projects and stuff like that, but I never let this movie die, ever. And as an actor, I'm sure you all are actors out here. If you find something like this that, is made on a shoestring and you're all passionate about it, and whoopsie, the financing falls apart, or didn't get the distribution at the film festival, or whatever it is, or didn't get into this or didn't get into that, don't give up. Use everything you have, because Rama and I together really have made this movie have a life. And I wasn't going to give up on it, and she doesn't take no for an answer. So with all of our resources together, I mean, I played a huge part in getting this to where it is, because I feel so passionately about it. And, you know, with the budget that we have, like we weren't, you know, able to hire, you know, extraordinary, like humongous, you know, people to help this. And so with the connections that I have, or my friends have, or so-and-so, like pulling in as many people that, and once we got a distributor, I was like, we're taking this thing all the way. And like the fact that I'm even here now is like amazing.
Yeah, there are so many heartfelt indies like this that don't get seen because the passion isn't there.
I think the actor really has to step up, And I'm not the most famous person in the world, but I know enough people, and we've made it pop, and we want to take it all the way to the Indie Spirit Awards. So that's what we're going to do.
Well, let's go backwards. Let's talk about you a little bit and your background. You grew up in Houston, is that right?
Houston, yeah.
And were there any actors in your family? How did you discover this craft?
Mom? No actors in my family. I guess I just had a lot of anxiety as a kid, and I felt things very deeply, and I couldn't relate to kids my own age. I've always felt more comfortable around older people, and I started doing school plays, and my mom hooked me up with an acting coach locally, and she saw that I had a worldly quality about me at 14.
This was in grade school?
In Houston, yeah. Mm-hmm. And I just had a maturity, I guess, that an old soul that kind of would understand like material and stuff like that. So
what was your first play?
It was some crap that my class wrote. And I was like the teacher because I was very mature. So I was the lead and I was the teacher of all the other.
It wasn't like a junior high, The Crucible, or
it was like 8th grade, like
salesman.
Musical Disney songs. No, it was nothing. No, it was nothing like high quality at all. And this acting teacher, Elise Lester, just really believed in me. She thought I had it, and encouraged me to go to LA and audition professionally. And then I did, and I booked all my children.
And you played twins, right?
Yeah, half sisters.
Half sisters.
Yeah.
And that's a strange way to start, isn't it?
Well, yes. My character was autistic, one of my characters, the main one. And then that was strange, but I grew up with a neighbor that had autism next door. And so I just took that in my whole life. And then I think I did an impression of him to my ability at 14, you know, or I had the qualities that he had in the audition. And I think, you know, I was so blessed to have that experience. But yeah, then I played her, you know, prostituting half sister a couple years later. And
were you hoping one of them would die so you could focus, or?
No, I was like, bring it on, you know? And there were scenes that I had with myself, and I didn't understand that was insane at the time. It was just normal to me. So now I see.
And so it was good. You felt like it was great training. Some people.
Yeah. I mean, I had just a ton of material, you know, all the time. And I had a character that wasn't just like the bratty teenager. She was autistic, and she had very particular, like, the characterization of that was very particular. And I was kind of able to access a lot of emotions with that character in different ways. And then, yeah, I mean, anything seems like a walk in the park compared to that. Not a walk in the park, but like I had such a high standard for like what I wanted to do, and I knew I could do. So like when I got out of that, and it was like, okay, you're the cheerleader who has a crush on the boy, and you're making, you know, and I was like, this is boring, you know? So, and people would be like, oh, you shot 3 pages today? That's a lot. I'm like, really? I shot 99 pages like when I was like 16.
And
so
you had to learn a lot of lines very quickly.
Yeah, I think, again, like that was normal to me. So it just seemed like not a big deal at all. And I think my brain like became very photographic at that point.
Now, you were in a little modest indie film called The Hunger Games, playing Glimmer, the tribute from Region 1, was it?
District 1, yeah.
District 1. And was that life-changing? Was that...
Yeah.
I mean, you do get killed off in the first one, so you weren't in...
The best one.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, if we're being honest.
The others all were made in Burbank, I guess. Yeah. So, how did it change your career? How important was that for you? Did you start seeing different kinds of material and better?
Yeah, I mean, it was like right before like Instagram and all that, which was amazing. That time that Instagram didn't exist. So it was like before all that like media craze, you know, and it was still like people would buy Entertainment Weekly and people would buy, you know, books and people would buy the Hollywood Reporter, like the print, you know, and this book was like a huge project for Lionsgate, and it was just everyone was talking about it in town. And I read the books, and my agents told me that I did not have a shot to be in the movie. They said I wasn't the right type. I, you know, was too old, and
that's encouraging.
Yeah. And so I was like, guess what? I'm gonna do. You know, if you tell me no, it's definitely a yes. And I was living in like a really shitty apartment in Los Feliz.
In Burbank? Oh.
Hell no, in Los Feliz. And
we're trying to find the origins of
my anger,
the Burbank phobia.
I don't. If I find it, I'll go to therapy later and ask about it. I auditioned for it with Gary Ross, and I just went all out. I was like, this is my one shot, you know, at this huge movie, and there's no chance in hell that I'll get it. But like, if not, then might as well just go full balls to the wall. And I kind of like really focused on the arrow fight, you know, fighting and like just dirty and gritty. And everyone else in there was in a sundress in the audition, and I was in like cargo pants, military boots, and a tank top. And I was like, I don't think anyone gets this, you know.
How physical a part it is.
Yeah, it was
really.
There's one scene where I'm in a dress. And so I just went there. And Gary told me later like that I was the only girl that really looked like I wanted to kill her. And that's what the role was. So yeah, I remember they told me I didn't get it. And I was like, dang. And then they called me like a month later and were like, you're going to test for it. And I was like, huh? And then they called me that day and they were like, the test is canceled. And I was like, shoot. And then they were like, cause you got it. And I was like, huh? And I just remember like, whoa, this is the day that like everything's going to change. Okay. Wow. This is that moment. And nobody answered the phone. I was trying to call my mom. I was trying to call my dad. I was trying to call my boyfriend. I was trying to call, nobody was available. So I just had to sit there and be like, whoa, like this is that moment, I think maybe. And it did open a lot of doors.
And what have you learned? I mean, because we have actors here, what have you learned about the audition process over your course of your career? How do you approach it when you do have auditions?
Which is not as much as I'd like.
I mean, rather than just being offered things.
What? Excuse me? Offered? Who? Not me. No. Still working on it. Yeah, so it doesn't really, God bless all y'all. You know, you think at some point like that, maybe I'm gonna get, no, you're still not. So I still have to fight for the roles that I want, and that's okay because I know I can. I'm confident enough that I can compete, and if I don't get it, it's okay, you know, and it wasn't meant for me, and it's fine, and moving on. And I think what I do now is, especially if it's not, I pass on a lot of things because if it's not that, I don't really want to do it. And I guess that's hard for people that have to, you know, you got to pay your bills. So I understand that, and I'm blessed at the moment I'm not in that situation. But I really, really commit to auditions, like more and more and more and more and more than, because I'm just like, why not? You know, like why not just go for it? I'm not afraid of it. I'm not nervous because I'm so committed to whatever the character is that I'm just like, this is what I'm going to be like on set. So if this is what you want, here's what you got, like that, you know, or whatever it is. And making like really cool choices and just basically making myself happy with the choices I make, because I don't know what the hell they want, and neither do they. So when I
know it when they see it.
Yeah. And, you know, I do a lot of the coaching now, because I'm really passionate about empowering the actor and like making them as confident as I am at time. You know, of course there are days and times, but for the most part, I'm pretty confident, and I want everyone to have that experience. And, because I know my value, you know, I trust my training and what I'll bring, and I feel like it's an opportunity to act, and I just make myself happy with the choices and the level of commitment. And then if it works, it works. If it didn't, I did my best. And of course I still bomb sometimes, but you're like, okay, I'm human, moving on.
And what about theater? You said you started out in that. Have you continued on doing theater, and what does that mean for you in terms of keeping your sense and sensibility intact?
I did some plays in drama school. I did Golden Boy and Waiting for Lefty and some Shanley stuff. And that also is another thing where it's like, if you're working on those plays in a real way, you know, and then you get an audition for like Bimbo #5 on Entourage, you know, you're just gonna be like, no, you know.
And if you can handle Odette's language,
yeah, you got it. Yeah,
you've got some chops, right?
Well, hopefully, you know. But it's just like it makes you so passionate about like that level of quality, to where you're like a guest star on Bimbo Circus. Like, no, I don't want to. You know, I'd rather be with my classmates, like on the floor doing Waiting for Lefty stuff. You know, so I haven't done any theater recently. I'm focusing on writing right now, which is another interesting aspect to understanding acting, I think. And I'd like to do theater, though, again, but not been my focus.
And I noticed a lovely version of Wayfaring Stranger at the end of the film, and saw that you sang it. Is that something that you do professionally too, or that you keep up in, or you just have such a lovely voice?
Thank you. I thought that was meaningful I offered that into the movie. I thought it would be really meaningful to have that circle back in that way. Yes, I do a lot of singing, and I have recorded several things, but I feel like at a certain point with actors, it doesn't translate as well to music for some reason. Musicians can waltz onto any set and act, but with actors, I just don't feel like it works as well. So as much as I love it, and I love songwriting primarily, that's the real reason I do it, I think. I don't think it's something I'm going to pursue professionally. It takes a lot of groundwork, and I don't know if I want to do that when I've already, I'm more passionate about this and writing and directing. So maybe one day, and I write songs for all the movies I do.
Oh. Well, Wayfaring Stranger is such a great traditional song, and it's in the script when the boy sings it. Was that always in it, or did that come in later?
I think there was like a pick of 3 like public domain folk songs, and that was the one that ended up being chosen, and I think it was the right choice. Some directors play music on set to kind of set a mood. Was there any sort of traditional folk songs of this region that you listened to, or that were played by the director to help? You had a lot of non-professional actors in this. Most of them, yeah.
Almost all of them, right? Mm-hmm. Except for Mike, and
Billy.
and Billy.
Yeah,
we're all non-professionals, which is really extraordinary.
Yeah. I think we did play like banjo stuff like in the background as we're setting up for the day.
Not Deliverance, I hope.
No, maybe a day or 2. Yeah, like country songs and like folky bluegrass stuff, and yeah, just to kind of get people on the same vibe.
And You've got a music movie coming out, right? A Motley Crue movie.
Yes.
About
Motley Crue. Yeah, it's called The Dirt. The Dirt, yeah.
The Dirt.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to
Netflix.
just Dirt.
It's The Dirt.
And what do you play in it?
I play Charisse Neal, who's married to Vince Neal, and Rebecca Groff, my best friend, plays Heather Locklear. Oh. And that's how we met. And it's really fun. See, sometimes I'm like, I need to do something fun, even though we have a child that dies of cancer in it. Still a little, less intense than this sometimes. So I try to do one really intense thing and then one a little more fun, sexy part.
So it's more comedic and more.
It's just more lighthearted. It's just more lighthearted, and I feel like I did this, and then I did a series called Gone that's coming out on WGN America, where I play a woman who is like Elizabeth Smart or J.C. Dugard, kidnapped and sex trafficked and abused and
So lighthearted.
Yeah. And that was like 6 months of my life. So I was like, look, I gotta do something like fun and flirty. So I did The Dirt, and I get to mud wrestle in it and flirt with hot boys and, just be fun and young and sexy. And then I did a movie called London Calling with Vinnie Jones and Malcolm McDowell and Ron Perlman and Nicholas Braun. And again, sexy and fun. So,
and what's that called?
London Calling.
Uh-huh. Oh, great. Well, anything else coming up, or you've got a lot on your plate. You're writing, and you've got 2 movies and a series.
Anything? I say do as much as you can. Just do everything. I mean, if someone has something good, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do it, because I'm young and I want to do it all. So yeah, writing my own series, starting to pitch that soon. Scary, but true. And, like I said, the publicity commitment for this movie has been really intense, but it's worth it. It's worth it.
And it's playing in New York and LA right now.
Yes. And it's available on iTunes, Amazon, Google, all that today as well.
And so if you like it, get out and
Please,
tweet
it or
and Instagram and Facebook, and what else is there?
Mail it to your grandma or your mama or your papa or whatever.
And
get it on DVD.
One last thing. What advice, when people ask you for advice about acting, do you give them?
Oh.
Don't say don't.
No, I absolutely don't. I don't say that. I say, I guess I say, this was something I was told, that like talent is useless if you're lazy. And I have been lazy at times, 100%, because I can get away with doing nothing probably, but when I pushed myself to like go to drama school and do these plays and, do more than what was expected of me, because the bar is just so frighteningly low for what's considered good in America, for theater and film, and I was like, cool, we can all coast at that level. But if you want to be great, why not be great? Why not be the best and push yourself to be more than you thought? And to have respect for this profession. I mean, this is one of the oldest professions in the world, and in every civilization there has been performances and actors and storytellers, and it's used to heal, society. And I know that when you're going an audition for The Vampire Diaries, it doesn't seem that way, but at the end of the day, it is that. And to have this like a reverence and respect, that will make you, shape up, is what I say.
Well, you've made a film that I think is very inspiring to all of us in terms of purity of its spirit and the passion with which the filmmakers and the storytellers of it have brought it to us. And thank you very much.
Having me. Thank you so much.